Welcome. It's Thursday, and we are looking in chapter 17 of Revelation as we look at the beast and the woman upon the beast. Chapter 17, beginning at verse 1, says, One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, Come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits on the many waters. With her the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with wine and her adulteries. Then the angel carried me away in the spirit into the desert, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, and it was covered with blasphemous names, and had 7 heads and 7 horns. And the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and glittering with gold and precious stone. She held the golden cup in her hand, filled with the abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. This title was written upon her forehead: Mystery, Babylon the Great, Mother of the Prostitutes, and the Abomination of the Earth. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, those who bore testimony to Jesus. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. And then the angel said to me, Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and the beast that she rides upon, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast which you saw once was now and is not, and will come up out of the abyss, and go to his destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished, and when they see the beast, because once he was not, and now yet will come. This calls for the mind of wisdom. The 7 heads are the 7 hills on which the woman sits. They are the 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for a little while. Then the beast, who once was, and now is not, is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7, and is going to his destruction. The 10 horns that you saw are the 10 kings, who have not yet received the kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. They have one purpose, which will give their power and authority to the beast. They will make war against the Lamb with the Lamb, and will overcome them, because he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and with him will be called his chosen and faithful followers. Then the angel said to me, The waters you saw, where the prostitute sits, are the peoples, multitudes, nations, languages. The beast and the 10 horns that you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into the hearts of them to accomplish his purpose, agreeing to give the beast their power to rule until God's words would be fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. So, what we see here is the prostitute, and we see the beast. And this is a representation, the prostitute is a representation of Babylon. Babylon the Great. And this is the eternal battle that has been going on. We've talked before about this cosmic battle and how it affects the earth. And on the earth, it's been played out through Babylon. Babylon and Babylon's descendants into the world. Now, Babylon obviously was in power at one time. It flows, if you actually take it back, it flows out of, Babel is the same Babel that comes from the Tower of Babel, the name-wise. So it has that same connotation. It's always been around as this evil force that has been fighting against the people of God. And we see specifically that the woman who is sitting there, the prostitute, the city of Babylon is a representation of nations that rise who come against the people of God. And it's been historically that way, and it will be that way until the end of time. And where did they come from? Well, lots of different scholars like to argue about different things. They see the 7 hills and they say, well, there's 7 hills of Rome, so it must be Rome that it's talking about. Maybe, but it's not necessarily Rome. Because it says the hills just represent 7 leaders who come to rise to power. So we have to be careful when we look at these different things. And let's keep to the essence of what is being said here. It's saying here the nations of the world who are following the beast, who are following the evil ones, who are sent, or those that are sent by the evil one, underlie behind these nations who rise to power. But the nations are just the tools that God is allowing to bring the destruction of Babylon. And then we see in the end what's going to happen is those that are faithful are going to come with Christ. And we've already talked about the fact that there are those who have fallen, the faithful ones who have fallen, and those that are with Christ are ready, because he brings them into his presence to comfort them and let them know that he is in control. And so we see that there is going to come a judgment upon them. And one of the greatest things that I think that comes out of this passage is in the middle, right in the middle of all this, it says the beast, which you saw was the one that is not, and it's the people are looking for the beast. Basically, that's a reference to what's happened when God basically came into play and he buried the beast in Euphrates, and then it talks earlier in Revelation about him being, coming with the keys to release it. And so that's why it says he was, or she was, and then was not, and now will be. Well, Babylon is all nation powers that are against God. And so they rise up, but one like Babylon is going to come up in the end, and it's going to be controlled, as we've already talked about earlier in Revelation, by all these beasts and these things that are coming. The final beast, the final Antichrist, is all going to be behind it all. And it says he was coming with those who have not been written in the book of life of the creation of the world. And I think this is important because the book of life is something we haven't talked about yet. There's the book of life, and the book of life is where the names of those who put their faith in Jesus are written, those who have been God's people, throughout history, since the creation of the world, those who have put their faith in God. Their names are written in the book of life. And that's going to come back later on in Revelation, because it's going to be those whose names are written in the book of life who are going to be with God in heaven. And those whose names are not written in the book of life are going to be those that are going to be destined for the wrath and the judgment of God. And we see that played out in part of this as well. Because those who have had their names written in the book of life, it tells us in verse 8 that they didn't have their names written there, and when they saw the beast, because he once was and was no more and yet will come, they recognize this evil is rising again. And so the true followers of God, everywhere, even in heaven, recognize this is the time, it's coming. So we see a lot of different things coming out here, but I just want us to keep the fact that ultimately this is Babylon. We can get into all kinds of what the colors, different things. As I've said, you can play off a lot of different ways. It talks about the nations that are to come. It talks about those that are to come after John's time, because there will be nations that will rise who will carry the power of evil against God's people. And that's continued ever since that point in time. There's been rises that come up. And if you really look at all the nations, they tie back to Babylon. The original nation, the original sinful nations against God's people. And it's an underlying theme of the Bible, and it carries through right through till the end of time. Because if you look at how nations and cities are feared in the Bible, it all ties back to Babylon, the evil one, and all of those things. So beware, but know that God is in control. And God has overcome, because those with their name written in the book of life have already had their name secured with him. I hope today you have your name written in the book of life, and I hope you can follow him. I pray this in Jesus' name, that you will find him. Blessings on the journey, and blessings as you bless others along the way.
That's today's Devo on Deep Treks. No matter how deep the questions or dark the doubts, there's always a path forward. Reach out at deeptreks.com with prayer needs or topics you'd like us to